We're live. So welcome to Brighton at Sunflower Studios. We're live now. We're going to start. So welcome everyone. This is United Patients Alliance meeting, and we're going to be talking mostly about medicinal cannabis and the patients that consume it. So thanks everyone for joining us. I'm sure we'll have a few more people arrive as we go through the evening. I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about my next project and where I believe that a lot of issues still lie for our community. So I am making a new documentary film, and it is called Skunk Madness. So Skunk Madness is quite a jarring name. Lots of people have commented, like, not everybody wants to support it because the name is so jarring. It's like the opposite to United Patients Alliance, right? So with United Patients Alliance, we very much were trying to soften the blow and make it the most like selfie worthy, like the best angle that you can take a picture of cannabis from, so that the government would listen to us and would actually do something, and the law would change. That law did change. Now, it wasn't exactly how we were fighting for. We didn't really expect them to go, well, we'll reschedule cannabis-based medicinal products, not all of cannabis. So, we've still got a lot of problems. We've still got a long way to go. And I believe the biggest thing that is holding back policy in this country is actually the stigma. There's this historic stigma behind cannabis consumption. And the term skunk has really been used by the media, especially by the media, to justify the war on drugs, to justify the things that they do to the patient community, to justify having a really stringent way of accessing it, where you have to have tried 2 medicines first. So you have to try 2 medicines that have a lot worse side effects and can be more damaging before you're allowed to try cannabis, which should be the first step. So, why is this? Why is it so hard? Why is it so difficult? And I really believe it's the stigma around cannabis that is the reason why. It's the reason why it's holding it back. It really is stopping people from being able to get behind cannabis as a medicine and being able to support it openly. And there's a lot of fear, and lots of people have said, well, you shouldn't call it skunk madness, you should call it something else. It's too jarring, but I believe that's why we should call it skunk madness, because it is jarring. It is going to be a shock to the senses. And unfortunately, we've won fortunately, we have won on the medical issue, but it's so slow. And people like Lee, for example, have to try some medicines that he's not willing to try, so is then denied. It's wrong. Like, everybody who wants it should be able to try cannabis as a medicine and should be able to access it legally. Nobody should be facing a criminal record for trying to access a plant which we know has been used for thousands of years to help people. So this whole skunk term, you read the way that our community is seen by a lot of people who are like opposed to what we're doing, is because they don't understand us. They don't understand what we're talking about, and they've just been fed misinformation and lies again and again and again, and they buy into that. And they think, okay, this is the truth because I've read it so many times in the newspaper. Maybe this is true. Maybe this skunk does make all these people go crazy. And whilst it would be wrong of me to say that cannabis is fine for everybody, because it's not, it really isn't. But it's maybe Professor David Nutt says it's 1 in 5,000 people that will have a problem or have an issue with cannabis. And that's a very minority of people. It's made out to be like it's going to be everybody. And it's really not. However, as the cannabis community, we have a problem that we don't accept these other sides. We don't want to accept this other side to the story, that actually for some people in their own experience, cannabis has led to an instance of psychotic episodes. And there is a correlation. Choose my words very carefully. There is a correlation between cannabis consumption and mental health issues. That is true. That's a fact. Why? Well, in my opinion, for the most part, cannabis is really good for my mental health. So I believe that people with mental health conditions, psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, ADHD, all sorts of different illnesses that I'll put under the mental health, whatever, in the box, umbrella, put in the box. Actually, people with those conditions seek out cannabis because cannabis is responsible for homeostasis. And if your mental health is out of whack and not in balance, cannabis can, for a lot of people, really help them to manage that. However, it can also be, everybody has a different tolerance level, and everybody, not everybody can consume as much as everybody else, for example. So people with low tolerances might not want to consume somebody as much as somebody like myself with MS, for example. But that's something that comes with knowledge and comes with experience and comes with learning about the plant, not from denying it and saying, no, that's bad, go away. If we want to understand the implications, the negative implications on cannabis and mental health, well, then we need legal access so that we can study it, so that people can look into it legally, so that we can get help for the people that have issues, so that people that have issues aren't marginalised, stigmatised, criminalised, and made into second-class citizens just because they've decided to consume cannabis instead of a whole concoction of pharmaceutical drugs, which many people do. Now, as I say, the other side of the coin is that for some people, cannabis can have a very negative input. That's someone knocking at the door. Yeah. Do you mind, Haskell, if that happens again? For a small amount of people, cannabis can have a negative impact on their mental health, and that's true, and that's real, and that's something that does happen and can happen. And as a community, we need to not deny that that's happening. We need to accept that that is real. And hey brother. Yeah, so this is a real problem for some people, that cannabis can have a negative impact on their mental health. That it can. And I have personally been in a place where I've taken some cannabis and it hasn't helped my mental health at the time. Did I have a psychotic episode? Probably not. Had I been fed a lot of information about cannabis having a negative impact, and had that been the only information that I'd had, and had that experience happen to me, would I have thought or perceived myself having a psychotic episode? Potentially. But because I have the knowledge, because I have the understanding, because I've looked into it and I've researched cannabis, and I know what to do if that happens, that didn't happen. So I think the knowledge is really the key thing here that we really need to change. That people really need to understand that for some people, cannabis can be good for their mental health. For some people, cannabis can be bad for their mental health. And depends what type of cannabis, who you are, what experience you have, a whole host of other factors that all come together to make that happen. It's never just the one thing. I think if we can try to understand that as a community, we'll be better placed, because I really strongly believe that as cannabis people, if we deny and say, no, we deny your experience to somebody that says, oh, I had a bad time, that makes us as bad as them. Because it's patients, really, that are the front line of this. And it's patients and people with illnesses and sicknesses and health problems that are going to be on the front lines again, moving this forward like we were before to get this in the first place. But stigma is just such a huge issue that we maybe didn't even contemplate as much when we did contemplate when we started the UPA. We knew that there was stigma, but we just needed to have our medicine legally. That was number one. And now we've got that, or some of us that are fortunate enough to have the money can afford that. That gives us the responsibility to stand up for everybody else and to talk and tackle this stigma head on, because that's what's holding us all back as a community. So I believe that we are stronger now than we've ever been. I believe that if we can come together and get rid of some of these petty differences that held our community back, and realise there is no medical recreational divide, there is just cannabis, and if you fight for cannabis, you fight for cannabis. Like, we can move this forward together, but we've got to just take a breath and take a moment and relax and like live as well. It's really important that as a community, like, we don't get too lost in it and we don't get too angry. We don't get too angry about the way that it's so wrong, because you can lose yourself to that anger. And anger is great if it's planned and in the right time at the right place. And our community as a whole, this anger that is in a lot of us, because we've been marginalised, we've been criminalised, we've been stigmatised. Like, people have put us down. Like, everyone, if you're a cannabis consumer, at some point in your life, you've probably experienced some form of discrimination because of it. Some form of joke, some form of like, and it's just there, it's rife. Because cannabis people are criminals, you can just take the mickey out of them and that's fine. But no, we're patients, we're not criminals. So I'm going to hand over to Chris, if you want to wheel a bit over here. So I'm going to introduce Chris. So Chris is a patient that has worked with the UPA for years, actually, years and years and years. Chris has been an integral member of our community for a really long time. If you could come in and reverse up in there. Integral community member for a really long time. He's come to so many different Parliament events and he's been active and advocate and supporter, spoken at many different events, like came to the vegan camp out and we both were like, oh my God, how many vegans are at the vegan camp out? But it was great. So Chris is a tireless advocate. But I was going to ask you, what is your experience of the legal cannabis industry?
First off, hi everybody. Nice to see such a nice group of people and people online. It's been a battle to get where we are now, and it is a financial aspect with it, which at the beginning, when we got it 2018 and got it legalized and got it on for 3 patients, or 3 types of patients, cancer patients with nausea, children with epileptic fits, and MS. So
Yeah, you should remember that one.
Yeah, it is a Sunday, but then the rest of it has gone on to the private sector, and somewhat a similar format that America has, but more refined for the British market. I got my prescription in the beginning of 2019 from the medical cannabis clinic. I was their first patient to get prescribed from them, and it has, in the past 5 years, it has improved a lot. But things like Project 21 and other companies coming in to be able to bring some of that price down. But that's one of the difficulties. You know, as a patient and somebody that's disabled, there is a reasonable chance that they may not be on a big income or any income, and have governmental support or having family support. So to get your prescription, first off, you normally a meeting £150, and then consultation, depending on which ones you do. Sometimes it's a first meeting or two, so you'd have to make sure you've got a couple of £100 put by for that, and then there's your prescription. And for a patient like myself, I have a condition called complex regional pain syndrome, which my immune system is attacking my nervous system in my right leg. I am on a fentanyl patch, maximum dose of the gabapentin and tramadol, amitriptyline, lidocaine patches, and Oromorph for great relief pain. So if I knock my leg, things like that, then Oromorph. Which means that if I'm doing anything, then within life, the aspect that my backup is morphine, which, having trying to have an active life and a worthwhile life in the community, restricts me dramatically. But being able to medicate with cannabis means that I'm able to control, some of my life and have some aspect of control over our lives.
So can you tell me, what did it mean to you when the day you got your first? Can you remember the day, like the day you got your first legal prescription? Can you tell us how that felt?
Yeah, it was very freeing. I've been very much one of an aspect of, I will fight this cause and fought this cause, like Clark has said.
You're a tireless advocate for this cause.
Where I remember one time there was at a festival, nearly 50 people around with me wanting to take my medication, and me saying, fine, you can, I'll go before you take my medication. And actually change some of how they deal with things now. So, but to go from that and then be able to say, no, I've got my prescription. I've got, as unfortunately in this world, I've got, we all need those little pieces of paper that says, yes, you can do this, and yes, you can do that. And, it's hidden behind many things, but
the tireless British bureaucracy. I think
that makes us great, right?
Well, I mean, it's a fair thing to say with it, because we're not like America. We have restricted it and confined it more like the UK, with the UK and the UK's.
But that's the thing. Like when you compare it to America, yeah, they do have it like in every state. Or not in every state, but in most of the states. But federally, they don't. So where we have our legal prescriptions, we are now legally here vaping legally, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. In the states, they don't necessarily have that. There's still the DEA, and the federal organisations can go after the industry and have demolished it. So
absolutely,
we've got some good things. But what would you say? You think where would you say the industry needs to improve the most?
Variety of medications, which they are working on. Quality of the medications, again, which they're working on. It was very poor at the beginning. Bedrocam, some of their 14% ones, diabolical, really.
Emoji.
But there is a reason behind that. It's because they didn't have the expertise of the growers to do it. What we need to do is take those people that from the historical market, bring them into the fold with it. There are growers that have been doing this for a very, very long time, And if they're able to go and actually have a career into growing their medication, being part of the pharmaceutical companies, there's a huge amount more prestige and self-worth within that than what the other side is. The historic market makes them, a drug dealer, a drug.
Some people love that though, because like you have the Robin Hood aspect, remember? So like not everybody's necessarily a drug dealer. I like to say legacy market. And actually I think both of us, we owe our quality of life to those people that were willing to step up and do that. So you're right, those people need to be included, not disenfranchised and pushed away or whatever, because there's real knowledge there.
That's it. It would be a massive mistake. It really would be. On all fronts. From individual society, as well as self-worth. But they get taxes. They get, there'd be wages. There were things that are happening with that. Those people are, there were a number of bigger greenhouses and growing areas within the UK that are happening here and up in Scotland that are absolutely huge, and being able to have that workforce and that knowledge come over will not only enrich their lives, but we would hope. And like I said, some people like to be on the anonymity side of things. And I think there's that's it. I think we can all kind of push against the old government reforms and controls with things, without having to have people alienated. If they want to be isolated, that's different.
They don't have to be anymore. Like it should be in a way in which people and the community feels able to be a part of it. So what could be done to do that? What do you think the community could do to engage better?
That's a good question.
I think one I've not got an answer for. So
well, I would say it stems within society again. So we need to educate the community, educate the outer public that there's so many people that don't realise that cannabis is legalised in this country. And there are people like myself and Clark and other patients that will medicate where they need to be able to medicate. Unfortunately, my condition isn't controlled and able to stay in.
This is my name.
Yeah, stay at home, and I can go on for other places. But legally, I can take my medication anywhere. Same as any other medication, I can take it anywhere. There's a huge amount, if you notice, there's been a huge amount of respect within society because people aren't even aware that it is to that level. We could and should be rightly able to go into one area and say, right, we're a medical cannabis prescription, I need to take my medication. And to be honest, you shouldn't even have to do that. I don't have to do it for my fentanyl patch, and there's a huge amount of issues about that. It's a wonderful medication. It changed my life from being able to be in total chronic pain and not able to do things to actually having a good quality of life. So it gets within it, so it gets into the grains of the country that it's not a strange taboo thing. If we go and sit outside the coffee shop down the road, that nobody else would have an issue. And quite frankly, a lot of the world's quite used to that.
Well, we are in Brighton, though.
Well, not only here. I've been very lucky and have been able to go to Hawaii and stay in some really good hotels, Fairmont hotels and things. And I will medicate there, and people won't bat an eyelid. So we've got high levels of society that don't have an issue, lower society aspects that don't, middle aspects that don't, professionals that don't have an issue.
Where do you think the issue is then?
Well, this is it.
It's
You
the
know,
stigma, that's what I'm
it's
saying about
within
scum
somewhat,
madness.
somewhat.
Scum madness
Yeah,
is the issue.
some of it is within ourselves as well. Of saying,
Yeah.
well, I won't do that. I don't put myself out there. And as a patient, that's totally understandable. But
do you stigmatise yourself personally?
No.
Have you? Have you before legally? Before having
no, what has been one of the things we come on with the mental health aspect is that I very much felt like it's right, and I'm willing. Maybe it's not on my upbringing. I was lucky. I went to Catholic primary schools, but then went to Catholic secondary school, which didn't work for me. Then went to a private school, and seeing the different aspects within life with them. And I think one of the things where we're up at the headmaster's study and we're reading we've all got the broadsheets. There's kids that we look now at. I was 12, 13, 14 looking at the Financial Times and discussing with things. And one of the things they came back was, the rules aren't for you guys. The rules are for everybody else. And that was quite an interesting aspect to be able to have. Not that you have an aspect to abuse it, but that you some of the people that are making the future laws, that are seeing what needs to be able to change. And that's what I feel some of the things that have needed to do in the past, and we've done some really good work. But
we've done our best.
Yeah. But it does take some of them just being a case of like, right, I'm going to put myself here. So like, I medicated in Parliament. When we were.
Yeah.
So but nobody had an issue there. Not one person questioned it.
Well, the police at Parliament were giving patients back their medicine.
Like,
This is before the law change.
What?
Patients were getting their medicine confiscated off of them it's like an airport gate, isn't it?
Yeah.
To get your bag scanned. And that, on the way out, they're giving the patients back and saying, no, give it back. So we had support from there.
Yeah.
But that's great. Thank you so much, Chris.
That's brilliant.
Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Right, so next we have a anonymous patient prescriber who would rather not give his name because of the nature of his work, but he has helped a lot of patients access cannabis medicines and then has thus experienced what those patients have, what their lives have been like, seen the transformations that cannabis can have on people's lives. Do you want to come here?
No, I think I was going to stay. I think I'll stay out of the camera. If that's all right.
Yeah, no problem.
So yeah, I introduce myself. I'm a medical herbalist, and I've been practicing 20 years doing that. So
you might want to. You could probably put your seat just there, and then you'd be closer to the mic.
Yeah.
If you want to go that side there.
Okay.
So if you pick up your seat and then just stick it here.
All right.
Sorry, then they'll be able to hear you.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so I'll just give a bit of background.
Yeah.
So you know where I'm kind of coming from. I did a degree in Western herbal medicine in London, and done 2 years of traditional Chinese medicine at London University. In those 5 years studying herbal medicine, cannabis was only mentioned twice really in the traditional Chinese medicine. Hemp seeds are used as a laxative, ground up hemp seeds. And Western herbal medicine, that 3-year degree, it was only mentioned as hemp oil, the omega 369 kind of mix. And it was never mentioned, in all that time, never mentioned, smokable or edible forms of cannabis, which is kind of unbelievable now when you look at it. And that was only 20 years ago in universities. It just was almost like obliterated from history of medicine when it's got such a huge, rich history, particularly look at the Victorian times, and it was so commonly prescribed by doctors for a huge array of conditions. So I remember reading on herbalist forums before I got into it, herbalists who were out working in San Francisco, cooperatives, talking about, just writing articles about this huge array of conditions that it was being treated for. And I remember thinking at the time, this woman sounds psychotic. There's no way that one herb can treat so many conditions.
Skunk madness.
I thought she's just lost it, because no herb is this powerful. And then actually over the last 9 years, I've seen how many, such a huge array of medical condition this herb can help with. It is quite extraordinary, and I'm constantly shocked, really, how effective it is for a huge amount of medical
What
problems.
conditions have you? What conditions have patients had that have come to you to seek your help?
Well, a lot of people, and the first person, I guess the first quite a few people who came to see me, people with cancer.
Yeah.
First 9 years ago, first people who came to see me were people looking for some, what they called hemp oil for their friends. And I'd never even heard of hemp oil as in cannabis oil, but a lot, because with kind of Rick Simpson back in the day, you hear a lot in the cannabis, medical cannabis cancer community mention of Rick Simpson oil.
Yeah.
And Rick Simpson was a Canadian campaigner, I suppose, cannabis campaigner, and kind of
I
developed.
met Rick Simpson one time in
Right.
Amsterdam.
Okay.
I did some talks for the Dutch patient organisation VOC, and he was there. It was absolutely honest with him.
Yeah. Well, he developed a protocol which was widely kind of bandied around, and it's a very light. It's taking 60 grams of kind of, I suppose you call it distillate. Essential oil of cannabis, really, 60 grams over 90 days. It's actually kind of a huge amount of cannabis.
It is.
And a really challenging thing for even the most experienced smoker to do.
Yeah.
But my housemate at the time, when I first was asked to find cannabis oil for a couple of friends of these people who just asked me for help, my housemate had a kind of form of blood cancer, and she, after we both started looking into it and exploring it, looking on forums and hearing people's experiences, she decided she wanted to do this protocol. So we ended up finding, well, she ended up finding and sourcing, well, I found it and she sourced it, really, some oil from California, from a kind of legal cooperative that was specializing in CBD, which 9 years ago was kind of rare, and you didn't hear much about CBD.
So they can see the other schedule.
Okay. And so we she got this oil. She actually got it sent to Portugal and went to stay with a doctor in Portugal who was a medical doctor you get, and she was having blood tests done within the first week of starting this schedule. She stayed out there for the whole 6 weeks, and the blood test was showing her cancer blood markers coming down immediately within a week.
Yeah.
I mean, really, this protocol, even just starting very small with tiny amounts and building up, because titrating cannabis is really the key to successful prescribing of cannabis, especially for newbies who aren't experienced of smokers. She was sleeping 22 hours a day to start with. She was literally gone for the first week, and just managing to wake up for a few hours to eat, and that was it, really. I mean, that's probably the hardest I've seen anyone hit by taking the oil.
For context, I would consider myself a seasoned cannabis consumer. When I was taking the gram a day, for the first few days, I was sleeping for about between 16 and 18 hours a day. And that as a seasoned cannabis consumer, it still was knocking me out. So for people that have not consumed it at all before, that can be scary, can't it?
Yeah, it can be very scary. And so these days I see very few people who want to do that protocol, and I don't kind of really encourage it.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, I think if I had cancer, I would very likely do it myself. It's a protocol that you can't really do unless you've got someone looking after you, bringing you food and really caring for you. And I've said to people, if you want to do it, it's like a retreat. You have to see it as a 6-week retreat. And it's as intense as doing chemotherapy in a way. It's really full on. But that was the first experience really of somebody taking it and really getting success. And she back then she was given I mean she was already over a life expectancy. What the doctors had originally said she was gonna survive. But she's still here, she's doing really well. 9 years later. And she just takes CBD now. She never actually liked THC at all. And she takes quite large amounts, 0.1 of a gram of CBD daily still. And occasionally she's gone back for short periods of time onto THC for short periods of time, which has helped bring down her markers again. Lots of patients that have come to me with cancer, looking to cure their cancer, and I'm working with people with cancer. It makes me realise it's such a tough disease, and I've seen a lot of people die from cancer, and it's not some kind of miracle cancer drug that for most people. I don't even like saying that, but I kind of think cancer is a really tough disease. Most people come to see me with later stage cancer, and I'm always shocked how much longer they live than I expect them to live. But it's more rare.
So you wouldn't be in the camp to be shouting cannabis cures cancer?
I wouldn't say cannabis cures cancer, but for some people, I think cancer is a really good example of cannabis being a psychedelic medicine, for saying cannabis is a psychedelic medicine.
I guess in high strength it is, but in lower strength, if you're vaping or whatever, maybe not. But when you're consuming...
We can see high doses, and there's something, I believe, about the spiritual psychedelic impact of high doses that is part of the curative nature. It's not just a physically curative agent, it's also something about the spiritual, psychological curative nature of it that I believe can help people cure cancer. And when you look at the kind of bizarreness of spontaneous remissions, it's something about the psychological ability to, I don't know, just to put the mindset into a place.
There's more to humans than we know.
Yeah. And I think sometimes cannabis and other psychedelics can help people get beyond themselves and be a major part of that healing journey. And apart from cancer, a lot of people I see want help for chronic pain, arthritic pain, neurological pain, nerve pain. Trigeminal neuralgia is a condition that is considered in the top 5 most painful conditions. And I have a young patient who finds actually an ointment of cannabis incredibly effective at hugely dampening down attacks he gets of trigeminal neuralgia, which are particularly exacerbated by kind of damp conditions.
So great to live in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is a lot most of my patients probably have never. The majority of my patients are not experienced smokers.
Yeah.
So they come to me nervous about it, and I don't want them to be scared off from the first time they take it. So I'm very cautious about what I give them, and mostly I start often with a standard kind of 50-50 ratio, THC and CBD.
Okay. Why do you do that?
I do that because it seems to be they have a much calmer experience of the THC.
Okay.
I kind of think that THC is the number one medicinal property in cannabis.
Yeah.
Now, some people have remarkable benefits from CBD alone, but it's kind of, which is great, and you can see that it's such a huge thing in the UK, but people can access that on every street corner now. I mean, in shops and pharmacies.
Yeah.
But THC is a much more powerful medicinal compound. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah, it is.
And
specifically Delta 9 THC.
Yeah.
We've got THC Delta 8, THC Delta 10, but specifically Delta 9 THC is the one that holds the most benefits of healing.
Is that the one that's metabolized by the liver after eating it?
That's right.
Yeah.
It amplifies it times 4 once it's metabolized in the liver through fats and everything. So the whole experience of what we were saying about ointments. I suffer from open wound ulcers on my ankles. I have done since September 2008, reoccurring. So they come on each side of the ankle. My legs were inflamed up the sides of my right leg, bad arthritis on my knees and my ankles and cramps and everything. And I've been using cannabis balms. The first one that actually showed healing benefits was through Sister Jade Empress Rising. She does CBD chocolates,
which are in the fridge behind me.
Those ones right there, yes.
CBD chocolates, Empress Rising.
So the balm that she made, I was applying it on my open wound ulcers around it, and it was helping with the regeneration of the skin tissue, as well as other balms from other members of the community. Farmers Flake, Healing Component Range, and quite recently, Mr. Jarvis Organics CBD Delta 9. He specializes in cannabinoid balms and ointments and healing medication within the community. And the nurses, I was going to my GPs twice a week to get my compression bandages changed from my open ulcers. It was a regular occurrence. I was on so much pharmaceuticals, medication, like what you were saying, all types of morphines, 3 types of morphine, patches, Oromorph, tablets. The GP had me on so much pharmaceutical medication that he said, this is legally the limit of how much we can prescribe you. After this, we have to refer you to pain specialists and pain clinics and so on. The journey continued. I realized that during the first lockdown, I couldn't get hold of any herbal medication, and my body went endocannabinoid and went and starved, not getting any cannabinoids over 4.5 weeks. And what that did, it triggered off a flare of cellulitis, and a second open ulcer occurred on my right ankle, size of pinhole, and then it got big and it got that big. So now, as well as just dealing with one open ulcer on one leg, now I've got it on the other as well, and that became such a major issue. But if it wasn't thanks to the cannabis balms, the ointments that I was using, which was providing me the regeneration of the skin tissue, these are the words that my GPs and nurses were telling me. So they said, so all the information.
Sorry if I don't mean, if I can just interrupt here and just say, could you explain a little bit about, because you're saying about how balms are really, really healing. How many patients would you say on average know that, and how many patients prefer to eating it? And maybe could that be a way in which patients do feel more comfortable with cannabis medicines? Have you experienced that with other people as well?
I do make a balm, and it's I think they're incredibly effective. I mean, it's a very traditional way of taking cannabis. particularly places like Mexico
Yeah.
and India. It's very
And have
common.
you had other patients that have had the same experience where they've used balms and then they've really had a difference in their
Well,
quality of life?
I've been making, I mean, not just cannabis balms, all sorts of topical herbal preparations. Like my first clinical exam, when at the end of my degree, we have to do a clinical exam, like any medical professional, and that was somebody with open ulcers, infected ulcers from actually falling in the canal, this guy, and like cutting his leg on a rusty or a bit of metal in the canal. So I treated that. You know, so as a herbalist, we treat open ulcers with something like comfrey oil and adding essential oils to it. You know, cannabis oil is an essential oil, so it's gonna penetrate through the skin, particularly like around an ulcer where it's kind of semi-open. You can apply it just around the edges of the ulcer, and that's going to help the ulcer heal, whether that's the THC, CBD, or other herbal.
Sort of all the cannabinoids in it, so THC, so CBN, CBG, THC, THC, it's got all the cannabinoids. That's what
The entourage effects.
That's right. That's what you need for the actual healing. Now, as with regards to when you were talking about just CBD and how that helps, I have experienced that through extracts, CBD extracts.
So have you tried a CBD balm compared to a THC balm, and have you seen a difference in that?
I have. Over the years, I was trying just CBD at a period when I couldn't get hold of a restock of my normal medication, normal balms. I had CBD balms with me, just specifically CBD. And they were, certain balms were helping, but I noticed that the healing process was a lot slower. So the healing process was taking place, but where it didn't have the THC and the other cannabinoids in there to assist it, it was really slow.
I think sometimes just having even like 1% THC with CBD completely can transform what that CBD can do.
We need the THC with cannabis to help with the healing properties being provided and being received.
I mean, other topical uses of cannabis, THC, are things like the essential oil can go directly. You know, the oil can go directly on things like warts, cancers on the skin. A suppositories directly on the tissues of the bowel, which really help with bowel cancers. That's probably when or vagina. These are all topical uses of cannabis, and it's very effective as a topical agent.
Yes, not everybody consumes through smoking or vaporization, and a lot of people, because of the stigma, a lot of people hesitate to inquire about certain medications, herbal medications, because of the surrounding badness that's surrounding the negativity that's surrounding the herbal medication part. You know, it's a bit difficult to spread, but you know, the word's getting out there, and places like Holland and Barrett are stocking CBD products and cannabis products. So places like Holland and Barrett are stocking like food supplement, health products they sell, and people like Holland and Barrett they sell it, then it must be good for you. So this type of acknowledgement is being raised.
I don't notice so much stigma. I mean, I've got a lot of patients in hospices, and they're literally being told by nurses to take cannabis without even prompting. Nurses are actually telling patients in hospitals and cancer hospitals.
Unofficially, though, right?
Unofficially, but
officially,
that's the. I mean, they can't give a prescription, but they are saying they are recommending.
They could say to go and get a prescription, couldn't they?
And I find most senior doctors, they should go and get prescriptions. Most senior doctors are absolutely senior specialists, oncologists are generally the really senior ones, professors and people really senior ones are very, very happy about their patients taking cannabis. It's only the junior kind of specialists who are still on the career ladder that that are scared to agree to it. I joined the Society of Prescribing Medical Cannabis Practitioners. I joined that a few weeks ago and went on a teaching seminar with them, with another 30 doctors. And
You went to that.
it was really good to see all these doctors really wanting to get into the cannabis prescribing industry. So they can, a lot of them GPs and other specialists, a lot of pharmacists doing the course because they just wanted to know, like, what is they can see this is the future.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be part of it. I don't think there actually will be prescribing from their pharmacies yet, but they just want to see where this is going and be part of it.
I think that's a really interesting point. It is the future. Cannabis medicines are the future. Like, if you don't like the smell of cannabis, I'm really sorry, but somebody's probably in pain and trying not to be in as much pain. So you're going to have to get used to it, because that's what places are going to smell like once we go forward and we start to enforce our rights as a community. And that leads to what I'm going to talk about next, which is the ambassador program. So the way in which the UPA is going, if I could please, excuse me, sorry. Yeah, I just need a minute. So no, hang on, I'm fine, I'm good. We're back. Just brain just shut down a second, and it just needs to come back. So we're talking about the ambassador program. So I am Clark, and I am United Patients Alliance MS ambassador. So what we're trying to do with the ambassador program is allow patients to represent their condition, their issue, their problem, their ailment with, officially for the EPA. So the ambassador program will be helping people to negotiate and talk to the traditional patient organisations that are out there that support people with different conditions, such as, for me, for example, the MS Society. So as an MS ambassador for the UPA, I will engage with the MS Society, and I will try and engage with the MS Trust. I'll talk to condition-specific charities about the UPA, about what we're doing, about trying to raise more awareness around the fact that cannabis is legally prescribed for many different conditions now, because we do have a huge issue where the world or our country hasn't really caught up with where we are actually at. So I think there was a survey that was done, and 84% of correspondents didn't know that cannabis medicine was now legal. So we have a huge issue where people in the public, they don't understand that actually we can legally do this. We can legally medicate. I am not breaking the law right now. I have my prescription, so there's nothing that anybody can do about it. So let's move forward. So the ambassador program will really help people to enforce their rights. We'll provide a program where people can read and know exactly what to do, know exactly what their rights are in different situations, so that we can go about our lives as we wish. So we can take our prescriptions. So we've got paperwork that's ready to send off, so we don't need to worry about it so much. There's a whole load of bureaucracy that comes around having a legal prescription. And if you don't have a legal prescription, well, then the ambassador program is still open to you as well, because the UPA doesn't discriminate. Cannabis is medicine, and it doesn't matter how you access it, it's therapeutic and has therapeutic value. So whether you are a prescribed patient or whether you are not a prescribed patient, you are welcome at the UPA, and you're encouraged to join the UPA's ambassador program, because it will really help us to get out there. Because I think we've had, as a community, we've faced so much stigma, and for some people like Mayor Green, that kind of thing is very, very, you know, outwardly, openly, I'm cannabis proud, but not everybody has got the balls to wear a cannabis suit everywhere they go.
Took me a
To be
while
honest,
too.
I know, but
Make
no,
me
they
actually
don't.
prepare
But you know,
myself and-
some people would have issues. Some people would worry about it. Like I worry about it at times. I'm like, oh, do I want to wear my cannabis t-shirt? Oh,
Yeah.
I've got my,
Yeah.
because I live in Brighton, but I
Yeah.
also live in a little village just outside of it. That's a little bit more. We've got Tory councillors, so I'm like, do I want my neighbours to see me wearing a big Sensi Seeds t-shirt? Probably not. So I think about that, you know, and you know, this is something that
you get to a point where you've normalized it enough in your mind that your body starts accepting it and becoming normal, that it's just normal.
Yeah.
And then wherever you go, of course, there are places that you wouldn't wear it or attract the wrong type of attention.
Well, in Brighton, I feel differently.
But what are they going to do? I mean,
No,
it's
there's
already
nothing. There's
all
no
through-
one. There's
through it.
nothing.
Like,
There's
even
nothing no
before-
one's going to do. But when you've got general anxiety disorder, right, and your brain is, which I do have, my brain is.
Excuse me, because I don't want to be videoed.
That's fine. I'm
Yeah.
facing myself.
So when you've got general anxiety disorder and your brain is trying to make up reasons for you to be anxious about something, that's something that you can be anxious about. So I know not everybody has that, but that is something that I have personally dealt with as in being part of the community. And that's why I wanted with the UPA, you know, that's why it's United Patients Alliance, it's patients first. But, you know, that's needs to change. And I've gone the whole way about with skunk madness and going the opposite, going, all right, let's get the skunk word and let's make it mad. Both purposeful to evoke a reaction from the people that see it, right? So, but however, patients at home can also sign up to the ambassador program. Just send us your email, join the UPA group on Facebook, Medical Cannabis UK, United Patients Alliance. And please, like, we need as many different people with as many different conditions as possible to come forward, sign up, do their little bit. Many hands make light work. If we all contact one condition charity, if we all do that one thing to move it forward, we can actually make a huge difference as a body, as a group of people. So we really want to solidify that with the ambassador program, give people a place to come. So we'll have one meeting every month, just for 1 hour to catch up, see where we're at, see what's going on. I will lead it for the first few, and then from the ambassadors that do sign up, a new official will be elected to take that role moving forward. So if that's something that you would be interested in doing, make sure that you send me your email address, or you can send me an email at clark.french.upa@gmail.com. So yeah, we're really hoping that will move things forward. We're really hoping that lots of people will join in, and this is a place where everybody can make a difference, where everybody can have something that they put into it, right? Because that's what we get a lot at the UPA. It's been a difficult situation to get the UPA back into a place where it was able to do this, but now that it is, there was a lot of historic problems with, I guess, people that worked at the UPA in the past that might not necessarily have done things the way that I would have done them, but hey, here we are. So it took me a lot of time to kind of gather my strength and come and be ready to come back in a way that was positive, in a way that could be, not negative, you know, in a way that would enrich the movement, not further the divide. I think it's really important that the UPA comes back, because we were a very important organisation in the changing of the law. We did so much work behind the scenes, so much work to set the foundations for that law to change. We were a respected group, an organisation of people that really care and really want to see this change for the better and for the betterment of everybody. So those of you that do want to join up to the ambassador program, I would be really grateful if you did. I think we're stronger together, and we are. I don't think it's true. We are stronger together. People said we would never get the law changed. We'd never get legal access to cannabis. Well, here I am with legal access to cannabis. What's our next move? Where are we going from here? How can we build from this? Because this gives us the higher ground. Yeah, I've thought about that one as well. This gives us the higher ground. We're at war. Unfortunately, there is no war on drugs. There's a war on us. Some of us have been given, or lucky enough to have the money to pay for the higher ground. And with that higher ground, we can continue to win battles. We've just won a glorious battle, glorious victory. Billy and Charlotte Coldwell, they won it for us. It was Billy's magic, and all the other patients with epilepsy and the mothers and all of the people that were going to Parliament constantly. It wasn't just one person that did it. Billy and Charlotte, they knocked that door down, but thousands of people set them up.
They could have easily just continued going abroad, bringing it through legally without letting the authorities know that what they were doing to get the THC medication, spend hundreds of thousands of flights and so on to go abroad.
And we needed someone, we needed someone with Charlotte's tenacity. It took a Northern Irish mother to knock down Parliament's door to be like, no, we're gonna be listened to. But she's just the tip of the spear. We've been campaigning for years. Like even the UPA, like we stand on the shoulders of giants as a community, as our generation of campaigners. We're not getting locked up, and people were. You go back to the generation before ours, our father's generation of campaignners. Well, they were all getting locked up. They were literally doing time. They were put in prison for doing this. Like, I've been
doing it for 25 years now.
Exactly. You saw people go to prison for it.
Yeah.
Like,
and then look with patients. This is where I say what they can do, because sometimes you go, right, if you're going to arrest me and contain me, well, you've got to take responsibility of me then. You've got to take responsibility of my condition, my medications. Let alone that there isn't a cell with wheelchairs. But these kind of things, when you look through it logically, gave me the confidence to say, you've got to go out there and do it. And we've been doing it for, like I said, for a long time, 25 years. And
will you join? You're going to be the first to join the ambassador program, are you, Chris?
I am.
So patients first.
Yep.
There you go. So there you go. You're going to join the ambassador program. That's really good to hear. And if more people, I'm sorry to put you on the spot there. I knew you'd say yes if I said you'd be the first one to do it. So there we go. We have our first patient ambassador, and anybody else who wants to sign up and wants to help, you'd be more than welcome to. It's open to anybody that wants to be a part of it. So yeah, I think we're going to.
More 20.
Yeah.
20 on the mark.
should have had some medication ready before 20. I think
420 is not on the schedule, but
it isn't. I didn't put
Next
420
time.
in the schedule.
obvious. It's going to be on
Right.
there.
So let's sort that out.
That minute
Leah, do you mind helping
break
sort
time.
out?
We get to
We're just gonna have a little medication break.
Good idea.
Do you know what you're saying? What are you saying
No,
about?
we can. They're going to join us at home. So if people at home want to take a moment, have a medication break, and then we can ask if anybody has any questions at the end for myself, Chris, or our legacy prescriber, we can then answer them. And if Mayor Green wants to come over and say a couple of words at the end as well, he would be most welcome to.
Let's see.
Thank you so much for what you just come through and said. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Why don't you saying about all the very qualified and expert growers being able to get into the industry. Well, it's not looking likely actually with corporate interest taking over. When I talk to someone who owns a 2.5 acre grow, or was it hectare grow in Lincolnshire? It's like the only people are going to be working with him are commercial horticulture, who know how to grow big scale.
But even with those people,
So unless those small scale people can really grow themselves on a small scale without the kind of very strict standards, GMP standards of growing that actually a small person can't ever afford to create. There's no way they can afford that level of standards for growing.
Well, I don't know if they
That's
can't.
why people need to be able to grow their own. I think that's part of the campaigning need for people to grow their own.
It definitely brings in a whole variety of different medications. You've got and levels with it. But there is easier crossover, and because with the same with any nature of plants when you're growing, we've got plankton just around the corner that are bringing out the people that we're talking about.
Yeah.
That doing the big horticulture and doing the vineyards, and training that there as well, and but there isn't so much of people saying, well, there is this other aspect, there's this other revenue. The bigger commercial people will be looking for the expertise to come from. Because if you're not going to get it from the historical market, and not train and educate the people, thank you, then it's gonna, all it's gonna happen is you're gonna take so much longer to progress things because the knowledge is gonna be lost. And that, I think that's one of the things. There's people that, yes, there are some of the bigger industry people that are on the black market, and they're just interested in the money and selling a product. That's not so much the people that I'm talking about. It's more the aspect of there are people that really want to get up to a high quality of medication. And care deeply about the plant. And when you have somebody that cares about the plant, that's going to be consuming it themselves possibly, they are going to be a lot more careful that is up to a good level. Even if, because you'll get standards, but the standards you can still always do better than what the base rate is. So do you just hit there, or do you try and get to that higher level with it? As within the human history, we are constantly learning things and then forgetting them, and then having to be, and we're not talking about that, say for the Egyptians or the Mayans, there are knowledge that has not gone through, to the people that could benefit in the future. And it's like, right, we've got this knowledge here, but what about the people further along? Because knowledge, as the old saying goes, knowledge is power, but being able to do these things and build the actual market. If you come in and start saying, bring in the people from that black market, yes, that is going to end up diminishing as well. It's like fake alcohol
it's more
producers.
important that people can actually grow their own medicine rather than
I agree.
grow commercial.
I'm definitely the growing your own. I totally.
I mean, one example that really feels strongly about is children with epilepsy who are paying up to £1,500 a month for their oils for their children, and that's just outrageous. That some of those people are actually mortgaging their houses just to do that.
Oh,
And because when they've seen it work, they can't stop giving their child that medicine, and it's
there are patients that are exactly.
and they could easily be growing that themselves and making medicine out of it as edibles for their children. Absolutely no problem at all.
Absolutely, and understanding these things. So when we're vaping, we're creating ADV, but you can use this ADV for edibles.
What's ADB?
So it's been carboxylated. So it brings the active THCA.
Yeah.
And there is still a huge amount of medication still with that. So then,
And you can make edibles there.
edibles out of it. So you can use the medication to get the most out of it. The vaping, you can put with the bags and things. How these ones work, you can put in a certain amount into it, so it can. You could have it that. You could have it like an oxygen mask. There was a company that actually had just come out with it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they used the wrong types of plastics with it, so they've had to go back to the drawing board. So you could be able to just, like you would with a child with respiratory illnesses, and using a form of ventilator onto it, if that's just the gases, when you can. You know what? But so you can be able to administer the medication that way for a variety of different patients without having them to be heavily smoking with them. And but it's only having that knowledge and being able to pass it on.
Yeah,
there are people that know that it's the case. Like I say,
Yeah.
I knew about
So back and so late.
it does make a big difference. There is definitely an aspect of life. That's what my normal medication was, and then we had it now. They gave me.
Oh, it doesn't. It's just the problem. There's something like that.
We were at 2 ounces a month on the but when you actually start working through what you're
You have to be careful.
the simple gram one per day.
Oh, it was good. Yeah.
For some people, now I mean my condition is also known as the suicide condition. Complex regional pain syndrome.
They still have your present.
Complex regional pain syndrome. RSA, I think, was another name for it. I can't cut the leg off.
What does RSA stand for?
Must admit that it was an old acronym that I got told, but I must. But it can happen within the other parts of your body. It can happen in two ways: by trauma, which was the same as mine. I had an accident. I fell into a trench and tore my ligaments and tendons in there. And I was very lucky. My physiotherapist straight afterwards went to the hospital, back home. And you do the same kind of things. You think, oh, I'll be better in a week. And she started working on me, and she just went, "There's something right here." And I said, "You were going pretty hard." She went, just going like that, and that really shocked me because I got to you look way there and do the thing, and then when what you feel and what's happening is quite considerable with it. But we actually went and said, right, I think you've got complex regional pain syndrome. I then went through a number of pain clinics and things. It probably did one over in Kensington, and then I did Dr. Padfield over at St Thomas's Hospital. He was the head of the pain clinic there. He's just going into semi-retirement. I'm still under him at the moment, but and they came in and confirmed that was the case, and I've done a number of the pain clinics.
Did they give you any non-drug related?
Spinal cord stimulator. We did an internal spinal cord stimulator with that. We were that I would get maybe a year benefit for going through the whole procedure, and we can go for it, but it's pretty very. I mean, already we've got. I don't know if you know much about the spinal cord stimulator, but the easiest way that I can explain it is like an internal TINS machine that they put on the spine nervous system, and then the vibrations from there. I had 2 of those. We first went at 60 hertz, and that just called vibration and pain. And then they backed it straight up to 60,000 hertz. Quite a big jump, but it's that kind of the way that like white noise kind of gets to that level where
is that just hooked up in clip?
No, that is connected to the back of my spine, and then I've got and we 6-8 weeks. I think we had that, and then they.
Are they on like meditation-based practices for pain relief?
It does work well. Yeah, I do some at night when I'm going to sleep.
I did a Vipassana silent meditation retreat, 10-day silent meditation retreat.
Oh wow!
And first what they did, like the amount of pain, I was expecting it to be very calm. It was all, any pain was magnified by 10, and it was really intense, and a lot of crazy thoughts. I really thought, man, lock me away, I should be certified completely insane. That's like day 4. The pain was the most surprising thing. The amount of I was like,
do you want to like wheel back here again, and then we'll put it on both parts? We're gonna come back in a second.
It was
I came down last time.
really shocking, but I also think once I got through that,
So we're gonna come back to
then
doing the live stream in 2
pain-
seconds. This is Chris.
the pain of
Chris, can you-
away.
Do you want
Just needed it. This was important to listen
Yeah,
to.
since the pain is. My pain level has gone down massively since the end of that retreat and doing hourly meditation and sitting.
Really?
Yeah. But there's something about the amplification of focus on it.
I think
Edibles works really well, and one of the things that we're saying, if he was vaping, you'd use the. We get you some recipes. Because chocolates and stuff work really well. We do it with some chocolates. And do you like Biscoff?
No, I don't.
Or peanut butter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do one where we mix it in and mix. That's quite nice. You've had those ones. Liz made chocolate.
Right, guys. Right, Leo. Sorry to interrupt you, but we're bringing it back now. So. Hey everyone on the live stream, we're back after having a little medication break, and we're going to just answer and ask a couple of questions. So just first off, does anybody have any questions for our anonymous patient prescriber?
I do.
Yes.
Has cannabis ever been prescribed by GPs before, like 50 or 100 years ago?
Yeah, until 1971, from the 1840s until 1971, it was legally prescribed by GPs.
Yeah. And just GPs, no specialists, just actual GPs.
Yeah.
So why do you think it hasn't come back and been able to be prescribed by GPs? What do you think are the barriers holding?
Well, it's this. I think it's probably the scheduling. But GPs are starting to be able to prescribe it under the new laws. if they're kind of sponsored by specialists, I think.
Yeah.
So there were a number of GPs on that medical cannabis prescribing society seminar that was on recently, and they're preparing to be prescribing it to their patients as GPs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of coming back, and it will, all the legalities are already in place for it to happen.
It's about time also, with many other medications, you don't need, you can get prescribed them before the GP can prescribe quite a large amount of medications. Yes, I'm not sure if it's still the case, but I went to the pain clinic, and then that's when the gabapentin and the fentanyl came into place. And that really made a big difference with
What
it.
advice would you give to patients, Chris, who want to get a cannabis prescription? Because you've got one now.
Yeah.
What advice would you say to other people that are considering doing that?
I would recommend. I think I think it would do people's mental health a lot of good, being able to have that aspect of saying that they're legal to do it, because you don't hear many people worrying about the other medications that they're subscribed for taking. And I do feel that, yes, there is some definite mental health issues and conditions that can exacerbate with cannabis. But I think a large percentage is that you've got, say, younger teenage kids, with their whole life is being worried about their parents telling them or their school telling them and stuff. And it's sometimes their first interactions into cannabis. So being worried about getting told off and things already starts off anxiety, already starts off, a potential mental health issues. So being able to actually have somebody that needing to have a prescription that can say, right, I am legal, and I can take, they don't worry about taking any of their other medications. People just take their medications when they take them. Yes, there are, like we know that there are issues with them, but they're not as bad as what they're making out that these things are in relation to the rest of the other medications that we're taking. And
especially opiates.
Yeah.
Have you experienced lots of patients coming off, like, because you've come off loads of opiates, you don't take as many as you did. You've not come off, but you've reduced.
I've been amazed that
how
some
many
people.
experiences?
I've been amazed some people can come off quite large levels of opiates, replace it with cannabis, and it's not for everyone. And some people actually just can't deal with cannabis, and they're perfectly happy with opiates, and that's their choice.
Yeah.
And it's just their body, and it works. But for some, I've seen people come off benzodiazepine addiction, which is pretty serious, common addiction people have, and it's a very difficult thing to come off, and all sorts of pentagab.
Yeah, because the benzos, they didn't know so much with it.
Yeah.
About what the negative aspects were going to be happening to the patients, and over in the States they've had a real big issue with it, particularly what's the one that's
What, the benzo?
Peru did it. Peru Pharmaceuticals did it. Oxycontin.
That's an opiate.
But hasn't it got a benzone aspect to it? I could be wrong with that, so maybe. But I mean, there's a number of medications
There's like Xanax, and there's
yes.
So
it's not your Xanax.
Clonazepam, it's not addictive, but it is addictive. So they are addictive, and they're very difficult to come off.
And they're very zombifying as well. To put your mental state of mind in such a zombifying, sedated stage that you can't even think straight. It completely spaces you out.
Although other people would say cannabis can do that, it's kind of
Is it a
Courses
mood
for courses
enhancer?
sometimes,
What do you say about cannabis being a mood enhancer, Mayor Green? Because I believe the reason why this happens is that cannabis is a mood enhancer, right? So if you're in a good mood, it will enhance that.
Yes.
If you're in a fear state, it can enhance that as well.
Mm.
So how would you respond to that?
I would say, yeah, cannabis does enhance those things, and in a positive way. Always in a positive way.
For you?
Because, yes, 100%. For the majority of the people,
Yeah.
but for some of the people that it doesn't agree with, like you were saying.
But if it's
certain people's bodies it doesn't agree with, that's understandable.
But a lot of it is just careful balancing of getting the right prescription.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and really
Yes.
changing that and adapting and working with the patient like carefully over a number of weeks.
Yes.
To find out what does work and what doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's ways of working around the consumption.
Yeah.
Because now there's so many methods
Yeah.
and ways to consume cannabis, like topicals, applying it onto the skin. It still absorbs into your system. Now you can have it in food, you can have it in drinks, water.
Yeah.
I want to ask Chris there. So you've been on methods of consumption. You've been vaping a lot more recently. How have you been finding having a volcano?
The volcanoes work pretty well with it. Takes a little bit of tweaking to work it out, and yeah, there probably could be some more help with the information with that. But you work it out.
If only there was a patient ambassador
Maybe
that could do some videos to help other patients. That out, because it's a big problem. It's a problem. You're right. You're not wrong there.
And that's just my thing with actually getting that knowledge and that information out there. You know, and we could be getting to the level of like having a cannabis patch. You know, we can do.
That's how I cross the Golden
But I
Gate
would
Bridge.
also say one of the things is that, like you're saying, it's a balance, because I'm on a 50 microgram fentanyl patch, 72 hour slow release one with that. And like I said, with that, worked really, really well. But on its own, I didn't do very well. I ended up being on the milkshakes because I couldn't eat, the pain. I was on prescribed milkshakes for at least probably a year.
Wow.
And then we started working more with cannabis. We had some. Also, my partner came into the picture that really helped me with my timings with all my medications and looking after me, and having somebody that can say, I can pick up the baton here, you go sit down and rest yourself, which comes into aspects of pacing. So that it works, but you need to learn about pacings. But cannabis was the fundamental change for me, where now we will go, right, we'll be eating in 45 minutes, half an hour. Chris, go medicate. I will medicate. I will start getting hungry, and I will be able to eat. You know, I can go days without eating. You know, I think some of your medications do that. You know, I have to be careful with hurting myself, because I don't realise I've hurt myself sometimes.
How much for you the medicinal impact of the munchies? It's not just the munchies for you, is it?
Yeah, no, it should. Everyone's heard of it. Everyone thinks that bit's funny, and it is funny, but it has a very, very practical, real world use for it. You know. And the difference that it has made is massive, because I've got the energy to be able to do things. You know, I was very lucky enough to be able to get married in 2019. You know, there were things that, you know, as a patient, I don't think I was going to get to if I didn't have the cannabis in my life. You know, we will go, right, I need to go and medicate, and same as my other, so, you know, 3-4 times a day, that we will make sure that I have medicated. And it's routine, it gives you stability, and you can build on those things with it. And it actually gives you a chance to build. And for patients, I don't think many of us time your medications give you something that can get you up.
It gives
the
you hope,
escalator.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
It gives you hope and confidence within yourself that you can feel the healing taking place when you're consuming cannabis. So your body is telling you that yes, over pharmaceuticals, cannabis is working. It's healing my body.
You've got control of it.
That's right. And then once you start understanding it in your brain, your body, the communication in between the both, it's absolutely incredible.
Do you think it's that hope and that feeling of hope that is really why cannabis can help as many patients? Is that something that you've seen when you prescribe to people?
I mean, when you have positive change in your life, you're feeling less pain, you feel more energy, you're sleeping better. All those things give you hope. I think it's more that really you're feeling some kind of physical or psychological benefit from smoking cannabis, and I think that's what gives people hope. Like there is relief, or there is better functioning. So that's what gives people hope. I think.
You see it with your patients. Normally, these little things that we like, though. So, is it the case where they were struggling to eat and then being able to say have a sandwich or something that they like? Their aches and pains in their bones is not so bad, so they can go and have a bath instead of having to have a bed wash or
increasing. And that all the studies on the pain relieving qualities of cannabis, when they do standard testing, cannabis only comes out as effective as codeine because they're trying to compare it by the traditional means of pain relief. But when they actually do much more sophisticated analysis of pain relief, including quality of life parameters, cannabis comes out hugely way more effective than so many because it's doing things like better sleep, better appetite, and all sorts of different, less anxiety, more physical movement. All these things all increase quality of life, and that's why the pain relieving qualities of cannabis are so powerful because it so much increases life quality.
It seems more like we're saying that the cannabis is working. It's raising all boats. As the tide comes. That analogy. And many medications are only working on this or this and this because that's in their nature to do so.
Yeah.
But they're saying, right, we've got an arthritis issue, so let's try and make a medication for arthritis. Like you were talking about, the idea to have something that could do numerous aspects. It goes medication
for everybody's name 5 symptoms that you treat with cannabis. Go.
Anxiety, pain, nausea, fatigue, and MS.
Boom.
Wow.
5 things.
5 things: chronic pain, insomnia, anxiety, depression, PTSD, appetite.
One medicine, 5 things. 2 people can just list off 5 things that would need 5 different prescriptions for on cannabis
10.
treats. Well,
5 each. So we need 10 to cover this.
Yeah.
So
I could list another 5 completely different ones.
I
Could say
please do.
gynecological issues,
Cancer.
Cancer. There's clinical trials on brain cancer. It doubled people's life expectancy with glioblastoma. That is an insane. It doubled. I mean, it's one of the most toughest cancers. It doubled it from 1 year to 2, but still, it doubled it.
To have an extra year of your life when you've only got one left,
and that's only the start of the research. Once you start to understand more about how cannabis can treat cancer or help it, then we're going to find specific products that are going to be specifically targeting cancer. So there's so much more research and more possibilities available.
So you've got things like glaucoma, like the ulcers they're talking about.
So many neurological conditions. What about viruses? What about studies in COVID showing how it helped prevent the cytokine storm that is responsible for the circulatory inflammation problems in COVID?
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, massive. It's definitely very
crossed my
strongly
mind.
antiviral.
Yeah.
Herpes. It's the best thing I've ever seen for treating cold sores. And probably the time I take it the most is for common cold or viruses like the flu. It's really powerful as an antiviral.
How would you take it in those kind of cases?
Edibles.
Yeah. Or capsules, or is it all just you'd say?
Well, any form of edible really.
Okay.
Because it's all going through the liver
And that's
full completely, going throughout your body. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool. Loads of comments coming in from people at home, all saying that they all experience pain relief for all different symptoms, different issues. Like everybody's in agreement all over the UK. Cannabis is helpful for all of us.
Absolutely. Cannabis is medicine.
It really is.
Some people in the comments ask how you transition to vaping from smoking.
Okay, yeah. So transitioning from vaping to smoking, Chris.
Yeah.
Or other way around.
I very much. I very much used to enjoy my spliff. I'd smoke it pure. In the UK, it's very often with tobacco. I would say to take that out the equation, especially as tobacco's getting so much more expensive. Put it towards your cannabis medication.
Yes.
I went from there, and then I literally stopped, and I've just been vaping consistently now for since product Earth.
Since product Earth?
Yeah, I haven't.
Oh,
I even tried one, and
Wow.
then I was just like, it's not the same. And it's the same aspect of when I felt with like concentrates, where you end up from consuming pure and then going to concentrates that increase both the flavor, taste, and level of medication is getting there with the actual with the volcano and vaping like with it. You want to make sure you've got like 4 good bags with in them. The consistency is quite cloudy, ideally,
Right.
and I happily transition with it. Also, it actually one of the other aspects is that a lot of people have if they've been smoking spliff, they're used to holding it in their hand.
That's
and
right.
doing it.
Yeah. You've got that habit of doing that or
Yeah.
doing it like this.
And the way they've done this is very clever. Especially if you're sitting at home, you're medicating. It's very user friendly with it. So I would be interested, and I would be pretty sure that you could move from. I mean, personally, I did this where I had it with tobacco. I then went over to the States. I had it pure. I came back. I was sort of had one pre-roll ready when I got back on the other flight, and I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore, and I just jumped straight over from stopping the tobacco. So it's very doable. People could stop today on the tobacco, and that's for patients and for all of us. That brings a whole other aspect into things. And one of the other things we were saying about how it can take patients, possibly how it be used for taking patients off other medications for withdrawals, or the opiate, as they say, the opiate epidemic. I won't get into that too much. As one that crosses 2 feet. I think there is use for both of them, and the idea that we use things together is the best. I think.
I think a lot of people find it difficult to get off smoking blunts or spliffs and
Yes.
just neat
Spliffs
grass.
as in mixed with tobacco.
No, just neat grass. Do you think
Yeah.
people find it
Joints.
difficult to move from joints to just
I
vaping?
did personally. I did. When I found that I need the right vaporizer was the thing that got me over.
Yeah.
I tried a lot of different vaporizers.
We've
I
been
spent
through
a lot of different. I spent quite a lot of money on vaporizers that didn't really cut it.
Yeah.
Until I got a volcano, and then once I had a volcano, and I can fill the bags up. So for me, when I was smoking, it's like when you have a joint and you're in loads of pain, you can get it into you quickly because you can smoke that whole joint really quickly, and then that all that's all into you. Whereas with the vapor bags, it's like the same. You can like fill a bag up,
Right.
and then you can be filling up another bag whilst you're having it. So you can like if you're like in acute pain, like you're in 10 out of 10 pain, you need to reduce that now. You can have like 6 bags in a row,
Yeah.
boom, 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 and that's like
Okay.
equivalent of smoking a joint in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
But so much
Absolutely.
healthier,
It
right?
works well.
You're
We
using a lot
do
less
exactly
as well.
like that.
So you're
When
because you're
consuming
using
through
one,
a-
you're
sorry,
using
when
one.
you're consuming through a dry herb
Yeah.
vaporizer,
Yeah.
the amount that you use in a joint, you will use half that amount
Yeah,
in
exactly.
a dry
So
herb
do that,
vaporizer.
exactly.
And that
And then you have the
that will get you
ABV.
more medicated. Than
And then you can
joint
make
would.
some edibles out of it afterwards. So like
And
for
that's
me,
where your money
vaporizing-
will go further.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's where it really would. And it does help. That's one of the other things, having the vaporizer and edibles.
Yeah.
We would very, very recommend that. That worked really, really well.
Take care.
See you later.
Bye. We'll see you soon. And actually, I think we're
Yes,
gonna.
A couple of good people have just popped off, but there are still quite a few people here. But
So
Safe
we've got
journey.
we've got a few people watching online. I think we've got people in Shetland. Hey, Kaylee. So yeah, we're UPA from Brighton to Shetland today.
Wow.
So thanks for everyone that joined in at home. We're gonna head off now and have a chat about what's going on in Brighton. And yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
And if you want to have a chat about what's going on in your local area, get in contact with us. We will make it happen. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you guys
Take
next
care.
time. Take care.
One love
It's
to
been
all.
good.
Blessings.
I'm gonna do 2 hands as it's from our
Cannabis is now legal on
anonymous.
prescription.
Yes.
Times have changed.
Blessings.
Take care. Bye.
One love. No, it's such an interesting topic.